joining us right now, hoping to have a very, very good night coming off a victory in Iowa, is one of the Republican frontrunners, Senator Ted Cruz. Senator, thank you so much for coming back on the Kuhner Report.
Jeff, it's great to be with you. Thank you for having me.
Senator, I got to ask you, today is voting day. What have you, have your people gone out? Are you getting your people out? How is your ground game? And for people who are still listening on the fence, why should they go out and vote for Ted Cruz?
Well, the strength of our campaign is our ground game. It is the grassroots. That has been the basis of this campaign from the beginning, as volunteers all across New Hampshire, all across the country, knocking on doors, making phone calls. We've got over 200,000 volunteers nationwide. And today is the day. It is voting day. If you're in New Hampshire, I ask you, please go to the polls and vote. If you have friends in New Hampshire, please call them and ask them to go to the polls and vote. And as for why, this race presents a clear and simple choice. We're all tired of what I call campaign conservatives, people who talk a good game but haven't walked the walk. And if you're looking for a consistent conservative, someone who's been the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow, then I ask for your support. If you want a president who will repeal Obamacare, ask who has led the fight against Obamacare. If you want a president who will stop amnesty, ask who has led the fight against amnesty and for securing the border. If you want a president who will defend the Second Amendment, ask who has ferociously defended the Second Amendment and the entire Bill of Rights. This is a choice between a consistent conservative versus campaign conservatives, and I hope and believe that New Hampshire courageous conservatives will stand together today.
Senator, it now appears from Saturday night's debate that Marco Rubio's support, if it's not imploding, has been badly damaged. What did you make of the Christie-Rubio exchange? And did Christie do conservatives a favor by unmasking Rubio in many ways for being the phony conservative, the rhino in the race?
Well, it was clearly a bad night for Marco. And I believe the most important determination that any voter is making is who's best prepared to be commander-in-chief, who has the experience and the judgment, who has the knowledge, who has the temperament, who has the clarity of vision and the strength of resolve to keep this nation safe, to identify our enemies, to do what is needed to defeat our enemies, and to keep America safe. And I think that night the debate provided a good contrast in terms of who understands the nature of the threats we're facing, who understands radical Islamic terrorism, who understands North Korea, and what we need to do to protect the men and women of America. And I think that's a big part of the reason why conservatives are uniting behind my campaign, is because we are looking for a commander-in-chief who will always, always, always have the back of our fighting men and women, of our soldiers and sailors and airmen and Marines. We're looking for a commander-in-chief who won't send our fighting men and women into combat with their arms tied behind their back, with rules of engagement that make no sense and make it impossible for them to win. We're looking for a commander-in-chief who will always stand with the veterans. And I got to tell you, Jeff, one of the most clarifying moments on that stage was when three of the Republican candidates, Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush and Chris Christie, all came out and said, yes, we should be drafting our daughters. We should be forcibly conscripting them into combat positions. And I was standing there thinking, are these guys nuts? Who in their right mind would want the federal government? I'm the father of two little girls who are 5 and 7. The idea that the federal government would forcibly conscript our daughters and put them into combat against their wishes, involuntarily, putting them in close hand-to-hand combat, potentially with some 200-pound psychopath jihadist who's trying to kill them, that doesn't make any sense at all. And I think that was a moment a lot of people kind of sat back and said, now wait a second, who understands how to protect this country, and who is simply going to be captive to political correctness?
Senator, how do you think you're going to do tonight? And a lot of people are saying you don't have to win New Hampshire, but if you do very well, if you come in a very strong third, or when you come in even second, it gives Ted Cruz a lot of momentum going into South Carolina, Nevada, and eventually to those SEC states. So how well do you think you're going to do, and what would you consider a victory tonight?
Jeff, I don't know what the results are going to be. We saw the results at midnight at Dixville Notch in the midnight states, and actually right now, the publicly reported results, we're tied for first. We got 9 votes, and John Kasich got 9 votes, and Trump got 9 votes. So that's an encouraging early sign. But for some time, the polling has shown Trump with a pretty significant lead, and then almost a statistical tie between second and sixth place, and they're all jumbled in just a few points apart from each other. So it's very hard to predict. From my end, I'm not going to worry about the others. I'm not going to worry about what other candidates do. My focus is very simple. This is about turnout. What we have seen happen, both in New Hampshire and nationally, is the old Reagan coalition coming together. We've seen conservatives joining with libertarians, joining with evangelicals and Tea Party activists and Reagan Democrats and young people. And if that happens again, one of the things we've seen since Rand Paul dropped out of the race is much of Rand's support has come to us. 5 different state representatives who were supporting Rand endorsed me. Rand's New Hampshire state chairman, Senator Kevin Avard, endorsed me. And so if we can simply turn out conservatives, turn out libertarians, turn out Reagan Democrats, I hope and believe we'll do well. And I'll tell you, I could put it very, very simply. If Kuhner country comes together, shows up and votes and pulls the lever, we will have a great night. And I've got enormous faith in Kuhner country, not only each of you showing up, but every one of you picking up the phone and calling 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10 of your friends and getting them to vote too. That's how this race is going to be won. Friend to friend, neighbor to neighbor, New Hampshireite to New Hampshireite.
We have been talking with Senator Ted Cruz. Senator, best of luck to you, my friend, and we'll talk soon. God bless.
Thank you, Jeff, and God bless